My name's David Welch. I'm here every single Tuesday at Brothers Trucks, bolting stuff on trucks to make sure they fit so your truck can get back on the road looking good and be safe. Now, I've got a company of my own where I build trucks, and I like to have a lot of helpful handy hints to give to you guys. So this week we're doing something a little bit different. I've strung together a bunch of helpful handy hints I hope you guys can use at home to get your trucks back on the road and looking good. You guys make sure you check us out on Instagram and Facebook, whatever else they got, and subscribe to the YouTube channel, because if you don't, I'm not coming back next Tuesday. Don't keep everything organized, you're gonna forget where it goes. Just trust me. I've been doing this a long time. I'm always thinking that I'm gonna remember where this goes, but it doesn't. And another thing is too, is that a lot of times there are really weird little bolts and nuts that have short shanks on them and miscellaneous things like that. They may not look special at the time, but make sure you keep everything until the end of the build, because you're gonna wanna find every one of those little things, and you're not gonna do it if it ain't like this. So sandpaper isn't necessarily expensive, but if you buy a lot of it, it can be. You want to make sure that your sandpaper lasts as long as possible. So I'm going to give you a couple of helpful handy hints to save your sandpaper and your back at the same time. So what you're going to want to do when you got nice new sandpaper on here and all the teeth are really good and sharp is you want to go as far in as possible, okay? And you want to sand your large open areas first. If you were to sand your area here, then you go further and further in, it's putting more and more strain on your back, and you're getting more and more tired as you go in. So go ahead and sand your inside and work your way out. This way, as you're getting tired, it'll be easier and easier. After you're sure you got all your nice flat areas and the sandpaper's starting to wear down some, then you can go ahead and hit all your edges. Now, the reason you don't hit your edges first is because that's going to chew up your sandpaper faster and wear it out faster, and it'll be dull if you try to do your large flat area. So large flat areas first, then you do your rounded areas, your smaller areas, and then you can use it on stuff like this right here just to get the last bit of life out of your sandpaper and get as much sanding done at the same time. I don't want to strip these little screws right here, the Phillips head, because then I have to drill it out. It's really problematic. So a lot of times what you're going to want to do on something like this, especially where it is adhered to metal, is just go ahead and clean it out a little bit. Give it a couple of taps. That'll generally kind of break the rust seal on the screw there, and then it'll make it a lot easier to come out. That'll save you time, trouble, and money you don't have. All right, another helpful handy hint for you. When you're assembling vehicles, it's a lot easier to do it if all of your threads are clean on all of your caged and welded on nuts. So what I like to do is make sure that they're all tapped out first. And if you don't have a tap, you can make your own tap. All you got to do is get a bolt. I recommend these with the pointy end. They're generally a little bit easier to make taps out of and clean up your threads with. So all you need is just a bolt like this, and you'll just get a little grinder and you'll just grind 2 or 3 slots in there, and then that'll be where the debris will go in, and it'll give kind of a nice cutting edge too to clean those threads up. All right, so just like that. So now you got yourself a nice little tap. So I'm ready to install the switch, and you can see it's got this long wire on it. So how do we get this long wire fed all the way through? What we're going to do is take this one out, and this just pulls out. It's not bolted in or anything like that. It came out really nice, easy for me, because of course I double checked to make sure it pulled out easy before we started filming, so I didn't look weird trying to pull it out. Now I'm going to take this wire here and I'm going to cut it off right there, okay? And then what we'll do is simply tape this onto the end, and then we can go ahead and find the other end of this, which is on this style truck right here. Occasionally you'll find them in different places, just idiosyncrasies over the years, or people messing around with stuff. So I'll disconnect it from right here, I'll tape it right here, and then I'll carefully feed it through, pulling on the old wire, bringing the new wire in. Now while I'm doing that, I might have to do miscellaneous things like tilt the column up and down to get it in the corner here and things. I might have to pull it up and down, jiggle jaggle with it and such, but it'll go down there sooner or later. All right, you see these two bolts right here? Now here you got a nice fancy one, and they come nicer and fancier if you want to, but this right here is an OE original equipment standard assembly bolt, and you notice that it's got this point on it, and I also want you to notice that it has the threads going all the way to the top. Now let's say for instance you want to use these, but you're lining up something like this and you're having trouble. A lot of times with the flat end it's difficult to get everybody lined up at the same time. So what you're going to do is you're going to use your nice pointy assembly bolt, and then all you got to do is just put it in there. And because it spirals outward, it'll line everything up for you. You just got to make sure you're going nice and straight, and you're feeling constantly if there's any drag on your ratchet, meaning that you're cross-threading things. So watch all of that, and then you'll be able to assemble everything a lot easier. Now let's say for instance you want to use these fancy bolts, but things aren't lining up for you. All you got to do is use these bolts to line things up, then go ahead and unbolt it, and it'll be easier to install this after the fact. Here's a helpful handy hint for you. You want to keep a couple of torches around your shop, and the reason being is that they're very versatile for multiple jobs. For instance, you take your 1/4-inch rope right here that you typically use to get your window rubber in. So if you just take and cut it with the scissors, then you get the frayed ends and everything's going to be all messed up on you. So all you got to do is weight one side down with something, then go ahead and take a smaller torch like this, spin it at the same time. Now we got a nice clean end right here, and it's all melted together so we don't have to worry about it being frayed and coming apart on us. Also like to use these for shrink wrap and things like that, even though a few people say you shouldn't do that, but I like them anyway. Now your bigger torch right here, this is going to be for getting things a lot harder. And the reason we want to get things hotter is because we're going to use something like this. It's a relatively big chunk of metal. What I'm going to use this for is to actually melt into the carpet and make holes for where the seat belt or the seats bolt down to. Now the reason that we want to do that is because if you were, for instance, going to take a drill and you wanted to drill through it, a lot of times what's going to happen is, it didn't happen in this case, but a lot of times what happens is one of these threads right here is going to catch on the drill, and it's going to wrap around the drill, and it's just going to make this fray out. So that's all pretty ugly there. If you take a razor, you get these frays also. So what you're going to do to make sure you don't get any of those frays is simply make sure you know exactly where your seat belt holes or your seat belt's going to be. Now how you do that is you either get an awl, and you can either climb up underneath the cab and then go ahead and push through all the holes, and then it'll come up. Then you take an awl from the top and you put it, now you know where they're all at. So after you get that all set up, then you can get your torch, and this takes a little bit of time to get warm enough for that. So while I'm waiting for that, I'll show you another thing. So you got gauge cluster, right? It's plastic, more than likely yours is pretty old. So if you were to take a drill and try to drill through that in order to put some turn signal lights, a switch for your what have yous, then a lot of times it's going to be really brittle and it'll break. So what you can just get a smaller socket, heat it up, same thing, and then you can just burn a nice even hole right through plastic. So a lot of versatility in this. Now, a lot of times you got to get this so hot it's almost red hot. I'm going to try it just to see what happens. But I think I'm going to have to get this hotter. So let's see. Yeah, it's melted. Well, that was pretty good. So that melts in. You can see this right here. Nice, clean, concise hole. All of the carpet is not going to fray on you because it's melted together on the ends. That's your nice, clean way of doing it. So the last thing I got to show you is this right here, wire crimpers. If you're doing electrical, this is just going to be invaluable. Now, this is what's known as a insulated end on a terminal here, okay? And this is not for this. These just crimp really easy. Those crimpers you can find anywhere, nice and easy. This is for your plastic end, okay? And you'll notice there's two different places that are clamping right here. One's clamping only on the wire. The other is only clamping on the plastic or the rubber insulation on the wire. So this way you're getting double hold on there. Clamp on the wire, clamp on the plastic. Now, if you just go try to use your normal crimpers and things like that, trying to do this is practically impossible. But you go get this guy and it does both of these crimps at the same time. You just simply put your electrical connection into the right slot here. You'll see you have several different sizes for larger or thinner wires, and you'll just pick the right one for your connector here. You'll put it in there, you'll put your wire in there, and then you'll just simply clamp it down and pull it back out. And now you're going to have a professional crimp on both of these, and you're going to be able to do your electrical wiring a lot faster and not have any problems in the future. This here is probably my favorite tool next to this tool right here. So again, my name is David Welch at Brothers Tech Center every single week, making sure your truck gets back on the road. You make sure you check us out on Facebook and Instagram, whatever else they've come up with, and subscribe to the YouTube channel, because next week I'm going to show you something else. And if you miss it, you're going to feel bad. You're going to complain to the wife. She doesn't like that stuff. It's just going to go on. Just never mind. Just subscribe.